Good afternoon. Welcome to Elite Currency. Sorry for that small delay. Welcome to our webinar on Harp charts and Accu charts as well. I want to take a look at both today, in fact. So we got a lot of stuff to cover. Let's get started. First of all, this warning explaining the fact that the webinar is intended for a global audience, may not be suitable for everyone regarding trading and foreign exchange that's considered high risk. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. This webinar is for informational and educational purposes only, and by continuing watching this webinar, you agree with this disclaimer, and you're also aware of the risk involved when trading. All right, before we start, just a quick introduction of Netted and myself. We are giving webinars and making an analysis for Admiral Markets. Take a look at admiralmarkets.com, and if you join and trade through Admiral Markets via us, we also offer free credit for our website and also for our courses. So that's great to take a look. Systems, tools, everything you name it, that you get a discount for that, or even for free. Depends on how much credit you save. So take a look. Admiral Markets, of course, also very good broker. They won the MT4 Best Broker Award in 2015. All right, a bit about this trading room webinar. We are basically looking at a couple of things. We want to start out with the trend. We want to basically have green Heikin-Ashi candles together with a impulse on the oscillator. So when we have those aligned, we have trending environment. We also want to make sure that we don't trade, if we're looking for a trade, right into strong support or resistance levels. Those are called filters. We also want to make sure that once we have a trend, that we zoom into lower time frame and then look for pullback continuation within a momentum. We basically use the oscillators for a pullback and the long-term trend. So the oscillator at the bottom indicating a trend, and the oscillator on the second row, basically above the bottom, that shows short-term pullbacks within that momentum. And the candles, of course, indicating blue up momentum and red bearish momentum. Last but not least, we're looking for specific entries, which we actually have several ways of doing using the Harp charts. One of those could be candles or the oscillator or arrows, for instance. All right, so with that said, let's head over to the chart. Of course, the last time we talked here in this Elite Currency webinar was Wednesday. Then we still had a Brexit vote ahead of us. Well, the British spoke, and they basically are showing that they would like to exit, although the margin, in my humble opinion, was small, 51.9, let's say 52 towards 48. That is a small margin considering the fact that there's going to be a huge change. In some countries, constitutional changes require 2/3 of the vote, for instance. So that is a big difference. If you need 67% of the vote to change, or if you need 60 or 55 or 50%, right? 50 plus one vote, literally. So that is a big difference. So that's why I say it's a small margin, but those were the rules, decided beforehand. For whatever reason, those were the rules. So that is the decision, and we saw very much the pound moving down. Today, we saw the pound moving up a bit as a reaction. I think it is consolidating at the moment, and you see some upside right here on the pound USD. Now, I took a pound actually long and euro dollar long earlier today, and those trades went well. And I used that basically, I think, a combination of Accu and Harp. Let's take a look right now at that. So you can see basically, first of all, I want to show you this long, and then I want to show you how I took it and why it is so easy, because we have a dashboard that makes things so much easier. All right. Now, if we look at basically, let's get rid of these alerts. If you look at the 4-hour chart, we just barely had an uptrend on the Accu here. You can see thick blue indicating the uptrend. Despite the bearish momentum, that was the first time actually that the pound dollar is showing that we could make a bigger correction. Now, mind you, that I think from my larger wave analysis, for instance, that this upside will be limited to, for instance, 137.50, 135, and we should see a downside from those levels. But it doesn't mean that we have the potential for trades to the upside when using this Accu system. All right. The Accu system is basically looking at these oscillators for trend purposes. And although we had a strong downtrend in this area, now we're in a new phase. Once again, I don't know how long that upside will last, and it might be very short. According to my analysis, it shouldn't be too long. But it doesn't stop me from trading to the upside on the Accu, also because I know that I expect a larger correction. So upside from that point, even from a wave analysis perspective, makes sense, but the Accu shows how I could do that. So we have an uptrend on the 4-hour. On the hourly, we have nothing stopping it. We're above the pivot point, and we have basically a retracement here. And on a 50-minute chart, you see that price was in basically the premium zone still, as I took it, as price basically completed its correction here and here twice, and twice we got a decent upside. So I made about, I took a profit at the M3, I made about 33 pips, and the risk was about, let's see, a bit more. Maybe I made, sorry, I didn't make 33. I'm totally miscalculating it. I made 55 and 60 pips, and the risk was 45. So it's about close to a 1.5 to 1 R2R trade on this pound USD 50-minute chart, and we got good upside. All right, so everything was aligned for upside. Now, why was that relatively easy for me to monitor? One of the improvements we made so far is the dashboard that we have available for both Accu and Harp. Now, for those that are joining this webinar because you are trading Harp, or you're on a trial Harp, perhaps, then most likely you don't have these dashboards yet. We have only sent them to a few. We're still basically trying to, get them. They're working for us, but we need to test with some traders if they work for others properly. So when we have that done, then we can send it to more people. If you're interested in this dashboard, and you have not tried a Harp or Accu trial, by all means, feel free to sign up on our website, and we will send this to you so you can try that for 2 weeks. All right. The dashboard is great because it basically gives you a quick overview. Everything is custom adjustable. Basically, you can change what time frames you look at and what pairs you look at. You can just simply go to this screen, click on dashboard, click on edit, and you can even decide which alerts, if you want alerts, first of all, by setting true to false, and which pairs, or just very simply writing the pair name as you see it in basically in your chart here in the left upper corner. Just write it right there, and that will be added. So at this moment, I have a big list. As you can see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 13. You could have less or more, depending on how you look at it, and how many you want to monitor, and currency, time frames too. So this is the Accu dashboard, and it's easy because we're looking for a specific setup, a configuration on Accu of the 4-hour, 1-hour, 15. But we did add daily and weekly just for people who want to see more time frames or who want to trade maybe different time combinations. All right. But it's great, and it's really it's so beneficial for us. It helps us with monitoring, with analyzing, with trading. It's much more efficient. It's much quicker, and you just have to flip through a lot less charts to get the same information. It is the equivalent of, I don't know. It's like instead of biking from Prague to I don't know, from Prague to Paris, I'm taking the fast train, right, or the plane. That's how it feels like. So it's really very useful, and Ned and I are very happy with this. We already mentioned it in May, beginning of May, when we had the promotion for Accu, that this was coming, and we're happy that we could deliver on that, and offer this system, or this improvement, I should say. So if you look at Accu, for instance, and we'll go to Harp in a second because probably most of you were interested in Harp, but maybe some of you also shown interest in Accu. And you can see basically that from the Accu point of view, your dollar still remains a potential trade. We got dark blue, light blue, and dark red. That's exactly the setup on these on 3 time frames we're looking for. That's configuration for upside. And for downside, it was the opposite. Then we're looking for red, dark red on the 4 hour, light red, and then dark blue or light blue, right? On 50. So euro dollar, pound dollar look correct, correctly set up for upside at this point. Even the euro yen, the pound yen, as you can see, that quickly these configurations kind of are what we're looking for, and we can see that quickly. But if that might seem still difficult to see, you can get rid of the weekly, you can get rid of the 5 minute, and you only have 4 time frames. That will help things. But above all, there's the alert that will make things even easier because there's an actual warning pop up that says if there's a setup or not. You see, your yen, your dollar. So even if this might be seeming, the colors might seem confusing at the beginning, which I can understand, that's okay because the alert will notify you if something is happening. So if we look at the euro dollar example, for instance, I showed you the pound just a second ago. But if we take a look at the euro dollar, let's see, there we go. Here. Right there and there and there and there. Right before the R1, we were above the pivot. Let's take a look at that again together on a 4 hour chart. We see basically very simple. We do see the beginning of an uptrend. So yeah, that does qualify as an uptrend. From the Accu point of view, at least, we see on the hourly, we see retracement. And on a 50-minute chart, we see price above the pivot. We see price close to the premium zone. It was close enough. And we see space to the R1. That's where price went to, and that's where I took profit. We see the 2 lines still above the 0 line, and we see the end of a correction. So this was 33 pips. I got mixed up with the euro dollar. Here, it was exactly 33. So when I said 33 on the pound, I actually had euro dollar in my mind, but the pound was actually more. So let's take a look at the Harp dashboard, and that looks pretty much similar. There's a slight difference. You see a bit of gray, light gray, blue gray. Those are neutral colors. Let's say price is basically just correcting at that point with gray. So Accu will only have clear reds, dark or light, or blues, dark or light blue. Whereas Harp has a bit more shades of coloring in the sense that we have levels of grayness matched into it. Harp is looking for a bit different scenario. Harp is actually looking for a trend on one time frame, dark blue or dark red, and looking for a lower time frame to one time frame lower to switch back to dark red or dark blue as well. So you see, for instance, here that there was potential on the 4 hour chart, right? We have dark red on the 4 hour and dark red on the daily. So the 4 hour was probably an opportunity not so long ago. This is, of course, just a heads up. We still have to do our homework in the sense that just because there's an alert, just because there's things aligned, for instance, on Accu, all right, we want to make sure that price is bouncing off a pivot, bouncing off a Murray math, not too close to resistance. If we're looking for upside, we wouldn't be wanting to go long right in front of the 133 pivot. If we went, if we got a setup, an alert, and price was here, we're looking for a long, obviously we don't want to trade it right into the pivot point, right? Same holds true for Harp. And we want to be careful with, that we, of course, check the chart and make sure that this is something that we think from a structure point of view makes sense. So if we take a look at this map, then we see some, on the lower time frames, we see trends to the upside. Higher time frames, we see trends to the downside. So there's a bit of a mismatch. Today, we're seeing some counter trend moves, basically. And we can see that also pretty quickly. And that also lines up with what Accu is saying, right? Accu, we had a 4 hour uptrend already, but it was brand new and it was basically an intraday upside. But it was basically just the start of it, right? We know that prior to that we had strong downsides. So those two basically confirm with each other. So let's take a look at some of those that's dashboards. Okay, let's take a look at some of these pairs that were interesting today potentially. Let's take a look at, I don't know which one. Do you have a preference perhaps? Let me open the box, the chat box. No preference. All right. Well, let's take a look maybe at that euro dollar, pound dollar. Let's keep it easy. And let's take a look at this euro dollar. So, from this perspective, from a higher time frame perspective, from a intraday trading, we had Accu upside. But interesting enough, we see that the daily is still down and the 4 hour is retracing. So if the 4 hour becomes dark red, we actually have a potential swing trade on the 4 hour chart for Harp to the downside. So you can see how interesting it is. We don't have the setup right now on Harp, but it could be close to the downside, and the same for pound. So you can see that the Accu is giving potential setups to the upside, which is great. But we also see reasons for swing potential to the downside. And you see, for instance, on dollar CAD as well, you see here things lined up to the upside, right? Here, let me show you with the green circle. We were just talking about here, the euro dollar, this pink and red, but the dollar CAD, we had alignment to the upside on these time frames, dark blue. All right, so when if you're looking for basically trading scalping trades, you might not want to have even show these weekly and daily. Maybe you want to show the 4 hour and lower or 1 hour and lower. All right. I also basically there's on the Harp dashboard you can have 30-minute and 1 minute as well. I took those away, but those are available too. So let's take a look at the euro dollar. You can see that price is correcting. Everything is bearishly aligned according to the oscillators, but price is in a retracement as we speak. But everything is very, very much so aligned for downside still. Yes, we did have a very strong push up from the momentum point of view here, but everything is still very bearishly aligned. Daily charts, everything is bearishly aligned. So I think on the 4 hour chart, as soon as we get a turn here and a good 4 hour bearish candle like this, like the previous dark red ones here, then I think that could be a potential swing trade. The break of this trend line, we could be looking at swing trades to the downside. Now, intraday trading not, as I said, the intraday moment was up. Let's take a look at some intraday potential setups throughout the day. Dollar CAD, right? We saw 1 hour up already. Here, for instance, could have been one or even a bit earlier, perhaps. All right, I'm not sure exactly when the trend changed, but that could have been obviously some potential there to the upside. We did have, or do have now everything aligned. Daily was up as well. All right. What else could have been potential? Euro yen, right? Euro yen as well. Or let me just quickly look at the dollar CAD one more time. See, everything was bullishly aligned. 4 hour, 1 hour, finished this correction there. So on a 5-minute chart, yep, look at that. Color candles, arrows. After this blue line, that's when we had the switch on the hourly and the loss of this downside momentum. And look at that, good upside, right? So that was some potential on dollar CAD. Using this dashboard, we can see that pretty quickly. Euro yen, let's take a look. All right, Euro yen is obviously still a lot of bearish momentum, but the hourly was trending to the upside from this point onwards, from 12. All right, so basically from 12 onwards, yeah. So there was the potential here with an arrow, for instance, to take along, and there was a potential to grab some almost 70 pips from an intraday perspective, just because the hourly had already switched. Now that was from a larger perspective a counter trend trade, because the euro yen otherwise is downtrend. But remember, if you're trading intraday, we don't necessarily need daily, weekly on our side, right? So that's depends on which time frames you want to trade and how you want to trade it, which time frames are interesting. For people who are trading intraday, the euro yen upside would have been a valid thing to look at. All right. For people looking for swing trading or intraday, the dollar CAD would have been interesting because there was more alignment. The short and the long term were aligned. The euro yen didn't have that. So sometimes certain pairs will have more alignment than others. And it depends whether that's interesting or not, depends on what time frames we want to trade, how we want to manage it. Last thing, folks, regarding the alerts, you can see here, it's going to indicate, let me make that a bit better, bigger. So that's going to indicate, well, first of all, if you have both running, it's going to indicate which system. If you have testing, of course, Harp or Accu, you would only see one of those, obviously. It's going to show the time frames that we select. So the thing is that, let me show you. I don't have the 1 minute and the 30 minute, so I'm not going to see those as alerts, of course. We only see the ones where it's true. And what you want to make sure is that you don't have a weekly and an hourly. It's always meant that the alert is meant for a time frame lower, not to have displaying the monthly and the 1 minute, because those are not in relationship with each other. What you could do is skip the 30 if you're using the hourly, and you can go right away to the 15. That's fine. Alrighty. So you will see not only the system, but the pair, obviously, the time frame, and what time that alert occurred. So a lot of Harp alerts, that's because there is a lot of alignment of 5 and 15-minute charts. You see a lot of short-term signals here because I have 5 and 15 on. So then you're going to get more signals. All right, as you can see. Also Accu as well, euro yen, euro dollar, pound dollar, euro yen, euro dollar again, you see? So, that's, and not all of these signals are ones we right away should or must take, or it's all kind of a heads up, and then for us to quickly filter out the noise and focus on potential signals that have real potential, that have real things aligned, and then it's for us to make the call whether the filters are blocking the trade, whether news events could be blocking the trade, whether your risk management could be blocking it, whether your trading psychology could be blocking it, all these things that are important as well, that might hinder that. Are there filters that could be blocking it that might not make it as appealing? But the cool thing is that this just quickens and eases the process. So for those Harp traders out there that have a trial at this moment, the best is to write me an email, and then we'll get that going for you as soon as we can, because we're still testing it with other traders. Well, for us, it's working, but we still need to get it running for other people, for other traders on other platforms. Not platforms, but other trading account numbers, I should say. If you're watching this by any chance and you don't have a trial for Accu or for Harp at this moment, you can do so by going to this website, elitecurrency.com, click on 2-week trial, and we will set you up somewhere in July, at the end of July probably, if you sign up now, all right, because we have, it takes some time to complete it, so, and therefore, or if you are watching this video, somewhere later this year, just be aware that it takes some time to set up. So best is to write us immediately so that you're not waiting too long for the free trial. All right. So that is a quick intro about this, or not quick, but that's a semi-full scale intro, in fact. Regarding current setups, as I said, your dollar is one, and we just had actually set up a cur. I just missed it during the explanation. but a buy here just occurred at 110.58. Prices went up to 71, so it's was up already 13 pips. This euro dollar upside, just like I took the trades. In here, this is a new potential setup because we still have 4-hour. Sorry, let me use a different chart. We still have 4-hour up basically. We have 1 hour retracing and 15-minute is ready to go. So that's great. The same apparently holds true. We just got alert for pound USD. Let's take a look at that. All right. So the pound USD, these alerts, by the way, are just giving you a heads up. It's not meaning that it's right away ready, and that's on purpose because if it would be right away ready, and you don't have a few minutes to prepare, that means that you don't have time to review the trade, to see if it's something for you. You might miss it because you're just by that coincidence, that particular second gone from the PC. So, this is always a heads up that a pair is almost ready for a setup. Within a few minutes, soon. And that's on purpose, so you have that time to do the analysis. So if we look at the pound USD, we have blue, dark blue, 1 hour retracing, and 15-minute chart is basically making a correction. So if we turn here to the upside, then that could be a potential intraday trade for one more push up. So it's giving a heads up. Now at the moment we don't have a setup because it's still thick red on the 15, on the euro dollar though it was clear. Let me show you. Just like the pound USD for that matter was clear as well. Here to the upside as it finishes correction, the euro dollar might have that one more time. All right, maybe not. Maybe this one will turn into a failure, but we never know for sure. In fact, this setup is invalidated. Excuse me. I just noticed because we always have to keep an eye on these two lines. They should be above that zero line, and they're not. So this is one of those filters you want to keep an eye on. Is those two lines on the Accu, right? And we don't have that. So the filters are not difficult, but it's easy to overlook it and make a mistake like that, as I almost did. So, well, I'm hosting a webinar at the same time, so multitasking is not my strength, but you can see that this is not the setup we're looking for because the retracement has gone too deep on the euro dollar. Whereas if we compare it to somewhere in the past, you can see, right, that here the line stayed above that zero line in all cases. Another setup on a potential heads up on the pound yen. On Accu, pound yen, we can take a look. Red, red, blue, blue, red, red. So there seems to be an intermediate uptrend, but a short-term retracement, and that's the combination we're looking for. It's not aligned with a bigger uptrend, so we want to be careful, for instance, with taking profit at the right spot. All right, so those are a couple of Accu examples. Euro dollar examples we just saw already on euro yen and dollar CAD and dollar yen, but for the moment, there's definitely a mismatch between lower and higher time frames, and I wouldn't be surprised that on the Harp swing trades to the downside could happen soon though. But you can see some intraday examples as well with Harp too, looking at the dollar yen, euro yen, dollar CAD, and perhaps the pound yen too. All right. So that wraps it up for today. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to contact us through our website. You can do that by sending us email or just using this form here, contact. And wish you all great trading. Thank you so much for being here. Tomorrow we'll be back at the same time, same place. And we'll be using that dashboard again a bit more intensively without the explanations. And looking forward to that. So hope to see you then tomorrow as well. Good trading. Talk to you soon. Cheers.